to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network.
Fabulous.
Live with the very latest food, beverage, and travel trends.
Amazing.
Now here's the host of our show, Mr. Randall White.
And hello, and a good day, everyone. You have arrived at California's numero uno place to talk about our state's food and beverage scene with a local, seasonal, and sustainable focus. This is the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio's Market Fresh Hour, where we are all about putting you in touch with the foods you eat, where they come from, who grows them, and what they do once they're inside you. Later on today's program, we are speaking with celebrity chef Nathan Lyon to learn his interpretation of a farm-to-table diet. Chef Lyon is one of the featured chefs at the upcoming Sunset Savor the Central Coast event at the end of September. So we are very lucky to have him with us in advance of his appearance. Then after that, we're headed to Southern California to hear about roasting peppers. It is that time of year. It's that season. And we'll hear some great tips from the organizer of the Santa Monica Farmers Market, some of the largest farmers markets in the nation. And they're offering free chili roasting demonstrations all month long at, I believe, a couple of their markets. But we're getting the goods right here without the long trip down south. So keep it tuned in. You'll get your pepper information. But first up this hour, it is our CookWell with Courtney segment. The last several times we've had her on the show, we just get a lot of response from listeners. People love to hear wellness tips from Courtney Coleman. She's a Central Coast resident and offers up cooking classes from time to time. But you can get a lot of information on her website as well, CookWell.org. Courtney Coleman, welcome back to Eat, Drink, Explore Radio. How are you?
Thanks, Randall. I'm great. How are you?
Good. It was so wonderful having you in studio last week. I really enjoyed that.
Thank you. Me too.
Courtney left the studio with a giant pot of beans, black beans that she had made at a cooking demonstration earlier in the day. And boy, those went in no time. I got to tell you, beans don't last long in our house.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful staple food to just have that pot of beans in your fridge to heat up really quick and eat with avocado or steamed veggies. I mean, or
lots of protein.
Rice. What?
Lots of protein.
Yeah, and wonderful fiber, and the black beans are particularly high in iron and all these other wonderful minerals that when you get it through food, the body goes, aha, I can use this.
Yeah. Courtney, there was an unusual taste in those beans that I have not had in black beans before, and I wanted you to share what that was so that I can make it again.
I'm pretty sure I usually use 2 parts cumin to 1 part each coriander and ginger, all ground spices, right?
Okay.
After the beans are soft, after they've simmered for a good hour for black beans, sometimes it takes longer, just keep simmering them till they're soft, and then add those ground spices in. For a big pot, you might use teaspoons. So 2 teaspoons cumin to 1 teaspoon each coriander and ginger is an Ayurvedic spice combination. And so Ayurveda is from India. It's an ancient Indian philosophy of how to heal and balance various body types with whole foods diet and lifestyle. And so these spices are known to help decrease gas in the intestines. And it just tastes, it's a really good tasty combo. And you can add like an 1/8 teaspoon cayenne if you want it real pungent and spicy, or kind of go heavier on the ginger if you like that. You know, really, you can make it your own.
So name those spices again, because as soon as you said the gas in the intestines and people are thinking black beans, some people avoid beans for that very reason.
I know.
These spices you're saying will help reduce the amount of gas buildup that you get.
Yes, and it's 2 parts cumin to 1 part each, coriander and ginger. But there's like 4 other steps you can take to make beans easier to digest. And we can talk about that today, or we can talk about that at some other time.
We'll have a whole bean segment.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll do beans separate.
But I thought they tasted so good. It must be the ginger that I wasn't expecting. I tasted that and I thought, now this is different but very delicious.
Yeah, and you know what's really good herb-wise at the very end is some fine minced fresh rosemary or any herbs that are kind of on the sweet side, like Kind of tarragon, but one of my favorite is marjoram.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put like a big fat tablespoon of dried marjoram in there, and maybe a teaspoon of sage and a teaspoon of dill is wonderful with the cumin, coriander, and ginger.
And I like the rosemary idea. Rosemary grows like a weed, you know, here in California. We have a huge, in fact, it's getting too big in our backyard. And so now I need some uses for it. So now I have another one.
I love how many different varieties there are, and some are sweeter and some are spicier. It's wonderful. All
right, I have to find this note that I got this week. Here it is. Okay, so Molly wrote in from Marina, California, which is just up from Santa Cruz, Monterey County. I believe that's Monterey. It's right there on the edge. It's saying... you talked about last week with the cook you had on the show, you talked about glycemic levels. I was wondering if there were any tips for getting off of refined sugars.
Yay.
And so as it so happens to be, Molly, that is it. Courtney wanted to follow up with what she did last week. Yeah. And so first off, Courtney, let's define what refined sugars are. But looking at the we do have a little bit of time. So let's start with the definition of refined sugars.
They're sugars that have been stripped of their fibers and vitamins and minerals where they come from. Like when it comes from sugar beets or sugar cane or any other sugar source, when they refine out the carbohydrate, the simple carbohydrate, the sugar, and they get products like white refined sugar or corn syrup. Those types of sugars, because they're void of fibers and vitamins and minerals, they hit the bloodstream really fast. And that spike in blood sugar is what indigenous people don't do. Mm. And it's not just related to insulin resistance and diabetes. It is directly related to high cholesterol and heart disease, cancer, sugars float around in the bloodstream and cause free radical damage, osteoporosis. They also compete with minerals for uptake. So insulin, when it's busy dealing with sugar, it can't deliver vitamins and minerals to where it's needed in the body. So osteoporosis sets in. Basically, the top 10 degenerative diseases are not just related to eating packaged food. It's that and spiking the blood sugar is what indigenous people don't do. It
can all be traced back to too much refined sugar in the diet. So any step backwards in the refining process is a better step, right? Because I know like brown sugar is not as highly refined as white sugar, right?
Actually, what brown sugar usually is white refined sugar with maple syrup or molasses added.
And molasses is part of the refining process.
Yeah, it's the byproduct. That's where all the vitamins and minerals go. But molasses is actually a wonderful whole sugar or natural sweetener that doesn't spike the blood sugar so fast. And if you have enough molasses, you can spike your blood sugar through the roof.
Yeah.
So with even all these whole sugars, like grade B maple syrup, or sucanat is also called rapadura sugar, and it looks like sand. It's brown. It's got the minerals in it. You can have too much of that and spike your blood sugar still. So what you want to work your way toward is using those types of sugars to get rid of sugar cravings, but then working your way toward less and less amounts of even the whole sugars, too.
Courtney Coleman, CookWell.org. We're back to tell you some steps to get yourself off of refined sugars. Back in just a moment. And welcome back to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network. This is our Market Fresh Hour, and it is our CookWell with Courtney segment. Courtney Coleman at CookWell.org has all sorts of fantastic tips for living a healthier lifestyle through diet. She'll even teach you how to cook, so if you're within the sound of our voice, you're within the sound of her car. And she can get herself to you to help teach you a class or two. Courtney joins us on the program, and when we ran up against the commercial break there, Courtney, you were defining what a refined sugar is.
Yeah.
And one of our listeners last week, Molly from Marina, wrote in a few days back and wanted to know if you had some steps for getting off of refined sugars.
Yes. Okay, so there's something called sugar withdrawal that you will experience if you try to go cold turkey off of cookies and candy bars, but even off of honey, maple syrup, molasses, even if you're using the whole sugars and lots of them and you're used to that, you'll experience headaches and tiredness as a sugar withdrawal symptom.
Similar to getting yourself off of caffeine or anything that you that has an addictive nature.
It is very similar to caffeine withdrawals. I've been through both.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was what's easiest for people so that they don't lose their marbles during the workday and they can still function in the world.
I mean, because we have to be realistic, right?
Oh, yeah, totally. Is gently baby step yourself off of the amount of refined sugar you're usually used to. Give yourself a month or two to have 2 cookies instead of 3 after lunch, or 1 cookie instead of 2. Do that for a week and then cut that in half the next week so that you don't get those intense headaches and tiredness. I mean, you'll be so tired, you'll feel like your eyes are closing and you don't have control of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really a pretty big deal. And it's also messing with brain chemistry and hormones. Every time you spike your blood sugar, your brain chemistry and hormones are spiking themselves as well. They're all directly related to blood sugar.
I think a big source of these sugars, I just know this from working in office-type situations, is the vending machine, for one. And also, people have a tendency to come in with big trays of donuts or cookies they made at home or leftover Halloween candy. The people who have kids, they come in there and then they try to pawn it off on everyone in the office.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on Halloween, a month or so away. And so so there's a constant temptation for people who work in that sort of environment.
Yeah.
How do you avoid that?
Well, it's really bad between October 31st and January 1st. That is the sugar season.
Yeah.
So I would have alternative treats in my purse ready to pop in my mouth when that's there and I want to choose differently. I might have dried figs in my purse.
So these are treats, Courtney, that contain whole sugars.
Yes, and so there's the thing of getting off refined sugar, and then there's the thing of getting lower glycemic as preventative medicine for those top 10 degenerative diseases. Because you can still spike your blood sugar with raw honey and maple syrup and all these wonderful whole sugars. So you want to work your way toward less and less amounts of those by carrying raisins or dates or dried figs in your purse with you, or bring them with you and put them in your locker at work.
I like dried apricots.
Oh, yeah. Dried fruit, as long as it's not sulfured, get it at the natural food store where it says unsulfured, and ideally organic, but I know a lot of good farmers out there aren't getting certified. It's a huge paperwork process and kind of a lot of money. So I don't always shop organic at farmers market, but I talk to the farmers and I see what their practices are. The sugar thing is a big, big deal.
I'll tell you what, Courtney, there is an apricot grower in the Hollister area that hits up farmers markets from the Bay Area through San Luis Obispo County that offers, among their dried apricots, they do offer some that are not sulfured. And they have more of a brown color than that bright orange that we're used to, but they taste the same. And they taste better, I think.
Always. Once you start shopping at a natural food store, you come across these discoveries yourself, and your taste buds change. Then, like half an apple is this wonderfully sweet treat after you give yourself that 6 months or a year to step yourself down off refined sugar and then step yourself down to smaller and smaller amounts of the natural sugars that, maybe a half teaspoon of raw honey is this wonderfully sweet treat eventually.
And
that's
sometimes
what you want to work your way toward.
Sometimes, either through accident or by choice, you find yourself having some refined sugars, and it is so sweet and like cloyingly sweet.
Right.
You can't. It's disgusting to you.
Right. It becomes unappealing. Your taste buds have adjusted to natural sugars, and the refined sugars are no longer even a draw for you.
Yeah, I took a sip of Coca-Cola the other day for the first time in I can't even tell you like 10 years or something.
Yeah.
And I just was like, how do people even drink that? Like it's so sweet.
Yeah, for me, it constricts the back of my throat. My throat, it's almost like my body's rejecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it almost hurts. Yeah.
Although I did use some Coca-Cola in a recipe that I made, and it was Coke made down in Mexico that uses it's still refined sugar, but it's not the high fructose corn syrup.
Yeah, yeah.
And you boil it down, and it's for making these carnitas dish that I found. And
Yeah.
it was really good. But I mean,
with the subject of Mexico, I want to talk about agave, because real agave, it looks like molasses. It's dark, and you can't see through it. It's like black.
Oh, it's that dark. So the ones that we're seeing at the store that are see-through and sort of look the color of syrup are more refined?
They're more refined, yeah. And the reason I know this to be true, not just because I read it on foodrenegade.com, agave, good or bad, is the name of the article. And there's many articles about this, and many articles in the New York Times and other credible sources talking about blood sugar as a big factor in health, long-term health.
Foodrenegade.com.
Yeah, and then just, you can find so much information about blood sugar these days and how it's a huge culprit in degenerative disease among modern people. But agave should be thick and dark and black. They don't sell that at the natural food stores. And how I know that it is a higher glycemic sweetener is because once you're off of refined sugar and you're lower glycemic in your diet, once you go back to having a bite of sugar at a party or drink a half a Coke or something, you not only get that like constriction in the back of your throat, but you get the headache again. It's sort of the same symptoms of trying it again as when you're getting off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I have a teaspoon of agave in a cup of tea at someone's house when all they've got is agave to sweeten the tea, I get that headache in the front of my head. And then my hands start to shake a little bit. And we should talk about sugar metabolism versus fat metabolism.
Yeah, let's do that. I imagine sugar metabolizes much more quickly than fat.
Well, yeah, and because we grow up on sugary cereals in the morning and the pasta or white bread stuff at lunch or white rice, and then a huge amount of white potatoes at night or other high glycemic foods like wheat or corn. And I'm talking large amounts of these are very common in the standard American diet.
Yeah.
So we're used to that blood sugar spike throughout the day, throughout the lifetime. And what happens is our body sort of calibrates to that and starts running or using sugar for fuel instead of burning fats for fuel. And the human body is designed to run on fat, to burn fat as fuel, not sugars. So when you get lower glycemic, your body will switch to burning fats for fuel, and you'll eat a whole avocado at a meal or a big heaping tablespoon of virgin coconut oil or pasture butter, and it's the most wonderful, satisfying fat and flavor in your cooking or what you're eating, and you'll just be losing weight without even trying.
Isn't that funny? Like
Yeah.
I use avocado in a lot of stuff, and I've heard people say to me, "Oh yeah, but avocados are so high in fat," and I'm like,
no,
there's nothing wrong with that.
All about the sugar. It's all about body type too. Some of us are carb types, some of us are protein types, some are mixed types. I'd recommend that people go to Mercola.com, Dr. Joseph Mercola's site, to do his nutritional typing test.
Yes.
Find out your particular body type and your needs.
All right, I hear the music playing us out, Courtney. I always feel like there's more to talk, but that's why we'll have you back next week.
Awesome.
To talk more and more. Courtney Coleman, CookWell.org is her website. Great information there. Reducing refined sugars in your diet. Courtney, thank you so much.
Thank you, Randall.
All right, everyone, stick around. We're back in just a moment with Chef Nathan Lyon.